Before I open the Barnstable Conservation Commission's hearing, I would like to ask George to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Abadili is on his way in. Foster?
Present.
Gilmore present. Hearn?
Present.
Lee?
Present?
Moran? Larry?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay.
And Abadili?
Present.
And Sampu? He is
Not yet.
absent at the moment.
Members of the commission.
Administrator Darcy Carley?
Present.
Staff member Kim Kavanaugh?
Present.
And Agent Ed Hoops?
Present.
We have a quorum and the floor is yours, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March the 7th, 2023 at 3 p.m. on the applications of Tales of Cape Cod, Inc., Michael Bronstein, Laurie Sidman, trustee. The hearing will be held remotely as televised on Channel 18. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email requests to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and transmitted by the Information Technology Department of the Town of Barnstable on Channel 18. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, anyone else desiring to make such a recording or transmissions, please let Channel 18 or I know. Hearing none. This afternoon's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participation. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed by the Lieutenant Governor on July 16, 2022, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. The hearing will be televised via Channel 18. Second, the real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing Zoom link 852-3082-0202 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. Third, the public can also email their comments to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. For your information, two of our commissioners are going to attend the virtual MHCC conference. Our Vice Chair, Commissioner Foster, will leave by 4, while Commissioner Hearn will leave by at least 5:30. Commissioner Sampu will be with the hearing by about 3:15 to participating in the discussion for Seldorf. So I would like to start with the enforcement order first. Before I do that, also under the NOI, the applicant for Laurie Sidman, trustee, Bonnie Brook Realty Trust, has requested for a continuance without testimony to April the 4th. The first of the enforcement order is Nancy L. Johnson Trust and Harbor Bluff QPLT 137 Harbor Bluff Road, Hyannis, as long as Hyannis map 325 parcel 119. Failure to request a certificate of compliance, SC 3-5424. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That pretty much says it all. This was a order of conditions had been issued back in 2016. The order was not extended and it expired in 2019. A reminder letter was sent by Fred back in 2020. And we've had nothing back from the homeowner at this point, or up until this point. What triggered this was the homeowner is seeking some more building permit issues, and so we were trying to get this this portion of the work cleared up. But I believe there is still some mitigation area that needs to be planted. But at this point, we're just seeking that the COC be requested and that they continue with the COC request, get that order of conditions closed out. And again, that's just a standard order. It's number 20 on the order of conditions, asking that once the project is done or the expiration of the order, that they file for a COC, which has not been done. And so again, I've just amended it slightly for dates because they're going to need a little bit more extra time, I think. Their original engineer was Robin Wilcox, who most of you probably know passed away a couple months ago. So they're going to have to go through the whole process with a new engineer, which will create a little bit more time. So I'm asking by June 30th of this year that the engineer or that an engineer files request for certificate of compliance.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions for Ed for the commissioner? None?
Quite understand. Will I get all that in writing so that I can bring that to the engineer?
Just 1 minute. Larry?
Ed, the only question I have, this is based on the 2016 OOC. Are there any additional violations, or is just fulfilling the order of condition requirements that you're looking at?
Well, they're going to have to, they still need to do the mitigation planting that was required under the original order of conditions. So that will have to be done as well. We can take care of that during the COC process.
Okay, I thought that should be clarified. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question from the commissioner? Can I go to Nancy? Do you understand what we are asking for you to do under the enforcement order?
Could you please repeat that? What it is that you want me to do? Because I'm holding back on a lot of the shrubs and so forth because of my allergies. I have a new allergist, hoping that I won't be as allergic to a lot of that stuff because I'm not in the same situation as I used to be. So that's what, that's what I need to do. And then I did call in, spoke to someone, and that, maybe, I think it was Darcy, and maybe I could replace them with something that I wouldn't be as allergic to. My original allergist has passed away, so I couldn't do too much with him.
Yes, you did talk to Darcy, and Darcy is willing to work with your engineer in terms of replacing some of the mitigation planting.
Right. Okay, so is there something called a reconsideration?
Not for COC.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the enforcement as written?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Bill?
You're muted, Bill.
Sorry. Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Can I pick it up?
Tom, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to state, I'm unable to put the commissioner's hands down, so please remove, take your hand down if you can, if you know how to do it. I can't do it tonight.
Okay.
Larry's hand is up.
There we go.
Thank you.
No, now it's down.
Now it's
Thank
down.
you.
Let me go to D. Take things out of order a little bit because I think she has another conference call at 4, so I'm not sure I can get there.
Mhm.
Have a few minutes, so let me go there. Isabel Morano and Thais Fernandez, 4 St. Francis Circle, Hyannis, map 291, parcel 225, alterations of the buffer to a wetland resource area, bordering vegetated wetlands by unpermitted constructions of patios and walkway and deposting construction debris at.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is over on St. Francis Circle in Hyannis here. The resource area is a small pond and what appears to be some bordering vegetated wetland to its fringe. This was triggered by another building permit request. When I came across the line, we had seen some irregularities here. So if you want to take a look on the left side of the screen, that was as of March 30th, 2021. That's what the property looked like. It was, again, it's all grass in the backyard, right down to the right very near the wetland boundary. And on the right, you can see that's April 21st, 2022, about a year later. You can see there's a significant amount of hardscape that's been added with these walkways and stone walkways and patios. And then there's another patio just tucked underneath here under the shrubs there. And again, just another thing here. So we have a stone or a patio, a brick walkway, another patio over here in the far corner, and then the main patio system here. There's a stone area that was cleared here. There's one then a more formalized brick patio further away from the resource area. And then we also had a pile of construction debris that had been left here down by the BVW. So what we're asking is that the wetland resource area be delineated on the property by the middle of next month, that the stone patio that's extended the extension to the brick patio should be removed from the area. That area should be reseeded then by May 7th. And then we're also asking that the brick patios and rinse station added sometime in the 2021-22 area will either need to be removed by May 15th, 2023, or they can seek to permit the brick patio by filing an RDA or notice of intent by June 30th. The type of the filing will have to depend upon where the actual wetland boundary is delineated. So, and then the construction material, construction debris should be removed by March 31st. I believe the homeowner was working on that this past weekend, that portion of it. I think the homeowner's daughter is in the audience.
I am.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you understand what we're asking for you to do under the enforcement order?
To be honest, I have several questions. So I first of all, thank you for everyone's time and for pushing us forward, because I do have another call at 4. So if I may, can I ask us to bring the screen back to the area that you had the drawings on? The first thing that we're being asked to do here, to have the wetland resources delineated. I'm not sure that we know the difference of what the wetlands are. So I think the slide before this one, did you have that area mapped out? There were some lines in here. So if you can help me understand where what does this mean?
Yeah, so this is an ARC reader or ArcGIS plan that you're saying. It's the boundaries and everything that are marked on the plan are somewhat loose. Okay, so these are not plans that you would be able to use as a for anything exacting. It's just it gives you an idea of where boundaries are and that sort of thing. So you'll need to get a wetland consultant to help you delineate the actual boundary. And I did give your mom a list of consultants that she could consult with in terms of getting the people the service that she needs to do that work. But if you need it, I can provide that again.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think she did mention she's out of the country, so if we can at least start reaching out to the consultants and get information, that would be great. So if you could share that electronically now that you have my contact, we would appreciate that.
Okay.
I think the best way, if you have any more question, I think you should contact Ed after the meeting or when you have time, so that you can have a further understanding of that enforcement order.
Yep, Sure. And then the second question we have is in regards to the patios. So both of these are saying, what are you, can you explain the difference between the two patios you're pointing to and discussing about them? Because he says one should be removed and the other one we may seek permit for. So if you can just help me understand and point which ones you're speaking of.
Okay, so this, I would, based on discussions that I had with your mom, she was definitely saying that she would like to try and keep this patio. And what I was saying is that she would probably need to remove this stone area.
We don't see your cursor, Ed.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what to do about that. So if you look on the right picture,
So the red brick can stay,
you
but
see where the red brick is. Your
Okay.
mom was looking to keep the red brick portion of the project, and I was saying that she would, in order to afford the mitigation that's going to have to come for something like that, they would have to certainly take out that stone area, which is like the gray area, very closest to the wetland, to the pond. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
There's the red arrow.
No, if you go to the right of the red arrow, there's a gray. It's a gray area with it's actually a fire pit in the middle of it, sort of acting as a bullseye there. But the gray area would have to be the area that would be removed.
Okay.
I just want to ask my husband, he's on the line in the call as well. Fernando, do you have anything to add regarding this information?
No, just let them know there's no concrete on the base of the patios. Both patios, they are not building on concrete. It's just sand. So anyways, we have a collector that we collect the rainwater, and we deposit it directly on the lake. So just at this point, there's no concrete under the both patios. So it's not gonna be a big deal. But
Right.
if it's on the conservation area, it has to be removed, right?
At least a portion of it, yes, it's going to have to be. I mean, it's either remove everything or remove that gray stone area and then seek permitting for the other, as well as, and I should mention that I had to amend this slightly because I didn't realize there was a rinse station right underneath the deck that's right here. So I had to amend the order to include a rinse station. So they'll be requesting it. If they're going to be doing this, they'll be requesting a notice of intent for the patio or the long walkway that runs all along the entire back of the house, as well as the attached patio there. The patio that's up underneath the vegetation. If you see the neighbor's blue pool, there's a patio underneath there. And then also for the rinse station.
What do you mean by wet station?
Rinse.
There's a rinse station.
Rinse station.
Some people call them outdoor showers, but you shouldn't if you're looking to permit it.
We don't have an outdoor shower. I think my mother has intention to seek permit for one, but we have not put one out.
Yeah,
So,
there's
like-
nothing.
What's here?
What's where?
It,
Yeah, and I apologize, but we can't
in
see.
the upper right photo, there's brand new wood underneath the top landing of the steps. There's fresh wood.
Oh yeah,
there. It
but
looks like
there's nothing inside actually.
No,
It's empty and there's no plumber nor not anything. It's just
it's just the bottom of that deck. There's just
yeah, she has the intent, but she never did. And
well,
there's no.
if she's intending to put an outdoor rinse station there, she will have to put that on the plan as well.
Yeah, I don't know that was
Okay.
the intent to put it there. She has intent to put an outdoor shower, but she hasn't even begun thinking about that. It's just intention, but we will certainly let her know that she needs to seek permit if we're gonna do a shower.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Luis?
And
Oh.
just yeah, we've already started to remove the debris, so that's fine. Okay,
Okay.
thank you
Yeah,
for
and
everyone's
Thank
time.
you.
Just
Chairman,
one more question. Our first deadline to remove it's March 3rd, third one, right? So remove
March
the construction
31st.
stuff.
The construction debris needs to be removed by the end of this month, by March 31st.
Third. Okay.
Okay, and then the filing, if
one.
you're doing the notice of intent filing, that has to be done by June 30th.
June 30th. Okay. Okay.
thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Luis, you got a question?
Yes, just to clarify, moving of that second patio and the stone wall does not equate to mitigation for keeping the first patio.
That is correct. It's an illegal, it's unpermitted, so it's just, it has to be taken out because there's no way they can afford the mitigation to keep all of it there.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Could I have a motion to approve the enforcement order as written?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Moran,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Byrne,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye, Foster,
aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
And
Thank
Samuel is here, but he's abstaining because I didn't see this full one.
Okay, thank you, Pete.
Thank you,
Pete Law is now part of our quorum as of 3:20.
Now let me go to the old and new business. Frank R. and Nancy M. Seldorf, 102 Bluff Points Drive, Contuit Maps 034 parcel 071. The results of the impacts of the shellfish habitat study conducted summer on 2022. John?
Good afternoon, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. Also here is the property owner, Mr. Seldorf, representatives from Nutter who have been working with us, Pam Newbert, who was assisting with some of the shellfish information on this. Just a little bit of a refresh. This is regarding the use of amphibious vessels at a property in Contuit. This use was originally allowed at this site in 2014. The commission had waived jurisdiction at this site. And this past year, the commission requested that we work with natural resources to try to do some additional studying to help the commission think about what they might do with these vessels should they start to see a growing request for them. And so we prepared and submitted to the commission what we intended to study in the spring, and we proceeded with that work through the summer. That included some additional shellfish surveying. We provided some information about the weights and weight distributions and pressures. We did some grain size analysis within the traveled way and 50 feet outside of the traveled way in either direction. We did a nuclear density testing, which is helps to figure out compaction within the traveled way and outside the traveled way. And we worked with natural resources so that they could do some actual drive over testing. And we provided a report with the information that we had pulled together. And we're all here to help. I think the commission has all had it for some time now. We're here to answer any questions that commission might have on the information that we provided. And I believe that I see Liz is here, Natural Resources here too, and I know that they provided some additional reports. But we believe that we've been continuing to comply with the commission's requests at this site, and wish them luck in whatever they choose to do with future applications. But I think we've met the needs at our site, we hope.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you for the applicants provide all this information. I think we more or less like a guinea pig and trying to going down this track, and then, but we don't have enough information. And with this study, we still don't need, we still need some more information, but I'll leave it at that. And then I'll want to get Liz to make her comment. She submitted 2 different reports, and I think it would be worthwhile for her to kind of mention her finding on this study. Liz?
Hi, can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, I'm in between meetings, so I'm in my car. The drive over study was very interesting. Definitely not what I expected, but in such a good way. And so I want to speak to that first and then speak to the other report that I wrote. So the drive over study, we were able to dig up over 600 soft-shell clams, actually from the Willow property, which I thought was interesting. And we moved those to this area in front of the property so that we could drive over half of them at 3 different levels. So intertidal areas, we did not go subtidal because we're not finding a lot of the soft shells there. So I wanted to really put these animals in the habitat that they would generally live, to try to give the best example of what might happen. We both had small animals that were under an inch and larger ones, because those larger ones do dig much deeper. And so we did not expect those to be impacted as much as the seed would that are closer to the surface. So we had 3 plots for control, 3 for drive over. And it was great. We drove over them. We dug everything up. As to be expected, soft-shell clams don't ever like to be relocated, so we were not able to get all those back. In some cases, less than 50% were recovered. There's also a lot of breakage that happens. So anytime a harvester harvests soft-shell clams, the old saying from Tom Marcotti, which I don't have anything to back it up other than his word, was that it's around 17% that break by harvest alone. So think of that more like that's being taken out of the population altogether. Like we're not getting to eat it. So in addition to that 17%, you're also looking at, what is being broken by the environment, what is being eaten by other animals, things like that. So staff broke a fair amount. I had new seasonals this year, so that was interesting. Only about half were recovered. It was between 5 and 10% that were broken from driving over. So that is a much smaller percentage than I expected. I'm not comfortable with any percentage dying that way, but it is much lower than expected because staff was breaking anywhere from 2 to 22% in one of the plots. But mostly less than 5%. So all in all, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, which is great. There are limitations to this study, obviously. So depth, we only saw 1 vehicle drive over these. More than that, what happens over time? We drove over it twice there and back. And so repeating that, what are the other problems that could happen with these animals with compaction of the soil, things of that nature. So I still do worry about this, and that leads me to my other report, because I had some issues with the Megalodon report, and I do value their work, and I realized that there were strongly worded arguments in there, and I mean no disrespect. It's really just, I want the science to be out there and there to be facts involved. And I felt like there was a lot lacking in that report. For instance, we had problems with driving all over the beach. It was kind of late in the season that we were able to get that corridor actually, okay, we need to drive between here and here. And so saying that we've taken samples from inside, the zone, when they've in fact been driving all over the beach, I can't put much stock in the compaction area and that sediment that was collected, especially when I'm not getting any information behind that. Did you drive over it and then did you take the compaction sample? Things of that nature are things that I'd really like to know. And I just thought that if we were spending all this time and effort to be able to do that we would end up with more information. I think as far as this goes, unfortunately, how I'm classifying it and how Natural Resources is classifying it is as a complete write-off. So we're just going to consider this a zone that, we're not going to plant in. We don't see there potentially being wild sets there. And I just want it really noted on the record that this is an area that is a relay area and is meant to be protected for shellfish. It was designated years ago as that. So you can't put piers in here. And equally important, people should not be allowed to drive in here. We have, all over town, we have regulations that people can't drive on the beach. And that should apply to these vehicles as well. I think because these ones have already been allowed to do so, perhaps they could be grandfathered in. I'm disappointed that one of the vessels was not available because from my research, and as you can see, I did a lot of research, I feel like that actually is going to have more of an impact than the one that has the treads. So just some food for thought. I just wanted everyone to have all the information so that we can make educated decisions and it's a head start when another one of these comes up again. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you for your hard work. Any questions from the commissioner?
Yeah, I've got my hand
Larry?
up. Yeah. Liz, I take it you are the author of this report dated February 10, is that right?
Is my name at the end of it? I don't have it in front of me. If my name's at the end of it, it would be.
No name, it's a no name report. So
it's a no name report.
Yeah, so if not, I'll take your word for it that it's your report. I just want to make sure we're talking about the author here.
Yes.
This is a drive over testing for the vessel.
This report is a lengthy one, and I'm not going to try to analyze it by paragraph. I'm just trying to find out which. That's the only report that I have in front of me.
Yes, that one is me. I wrote one on February 9th and one on February 10th.
Okay, thanks. The second question I have is that it sounds like prior to your moving some shellfish into this area, were there no shellfish there previously, or were there some there and you wanted to restock it to make sure your testing has a broader swath of it? Which is it?
So this area, in fact, is the exact area that I have been studying for 3 years seasonally. And I have previously found soft shell clams there. For this particular study, we emptied everything out of that location when we transplanted, so we didn't have any outside impact or influences on this study.
Okay, and you said something about Natural Resources wanting to scrub it. Is that the word you used? I didn't know. They didn't know what.
What do you mean scrub it?
Well, I don't know. You said some word that how you or your department.
Oh, scrapping it. Scrapping it.
Okay,
yeah.
scrapping. Okay, scrap and scrub means the same.
We're just considering it a loss to the environment and a loss to the loss of habitat.
All right. So the real essence of your report, part of it is that it's incomplete on data, not for anybody's fault. The second thing that is you've reached some conclusions, but there are others remaining to possibly be reached. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. We lack a lot of information.
All right. So is this something we should look forward to a future report or a supplemental report? I'm not trying to keep you fully engrossed in this project, but where do you see this going at the moment? Because this has been around a while. We may as well keep it going.
I would like to see it put to bed. However, I worry about these things. Honestly, sure. These are the types of things that keep me up at night. So as far as the biggest problem here is that these vessels are so new, at least to this country. Everything that we can compare comes from other countries. And it's different environments everywhere. We're not going to get any closer to answers because there's no, like someone needs to write a master's thesis or a PhD on this subject for us to be able to get more information. That is not something that I am capable of doing. I can do my on-site studies. I can continue doing shellfish surveys. It is not, I don't believe it's going to get us any closer, because the fact still remains that, well, you know, either you crush some clams and we can see it, but I have to be there. I have to happen to be there within a few days, or nothing's set there. It doesn't want to set there. We're never going to have the answers that we need, unfortunately, unless some real scientist, you know, that gets published by a peer review article can do some more information and digging for us.
One more question. Is there some methodology? What is it? Methodology.
Yeah.
Is some methodology that, based upon your studies, should be revised for a supplemental plan, if that was what was called upon? Should that be considered at this time, or is that something that is maybe beyond your level of interest? Not your skill, your level of interest.
Right. As far as shellfish surveys, or as far as the whole thing?
Just this project. If you want this to be universal, that's one thing. But if you want this to apply to this property, I think that's what we're talking about.
Okay. I mean, I think, honestly, I think we need to put this to bed.
Okay.
So I think what happens has happened. I don't, and this really stinks, but I don't think there's any more information that I can give you that you can't. There's too many variables in science for me to be able to give you an exact answer of what's happening.
Okay.
And that's something that we just have to live with. I personally go by the precautionary principle. It makes sense that if animals are being crushed, then we should not be driving on the beach, even a percentage. And so there's nothing more that I can do. I can keep monitoring the area, and I probably will, just for my own satisfaction, to see what's going on.
Okay.
But other than that, there's not a whole lot more that I can give you that I haven't already.
Well, I appreciate your candor. Okay, thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you, Larry. And Luis?
Hi, Liz.
Hi.
Hi. How do you discriminate between animals that have been broken by staff and ones that have been broken by driving over?
It's when you're actually digging and picking up the animal. When you see it, you know if you've crushed it or if it's already been crushed before you get to it.
Okay. I thought it was interesting. If I look at your numbers, the percent broken by staff is lower for the test samples than it is for the control. Do you have any reason for that?
No reason for that. I think if I was able to do a lot more samples, right, we'd be closer to actual values of what things should be. With only 6 sample plots, you know, there's not enough samples and there's not enough time. It was hard enough trying to get all those samples dug up in one tide. So I can't really speak to that, no.
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines that with these small numbers, one could question the statistical significance of any of this, perhaps. I'm not a statistician, but I know that the smaller the sample size, the more uncertainty there is in terms of conclusions you can reach.
Absolutely. And that's why our conclusions are pretty vague, right? Because we need a lot more data, a lot more samples. I mean, we'd have to do it at different times of year. There's so many things that we could have added in there. And this was just roughly to see what was going on. This was a quick and dirty way to do it.
Yeah, I think I heard you say that you were writing this off as loss of habitat. Did I hear this?
Yes.
That's depressing.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really concerning to me, at least. So
yeah, it means that I'm not going to be planting shellfish there because I'm not confident that those vessels are not doing any harm. And so I don't want to risk the shellfish that we're taking months and years to grow. And put it there, which is unfortunate because this area has been designated as an area for us to do that. So that's what I mean, is that because there's so many unknowns and we're still going to allow this to happen, I'm not going to put stock in that it's fine. That's
Yeah.
what I mean by counting it as a loss of habitat.
If you feel confident about the conclusions that you reached from this test, then maybe you don't because of the small sample size. Maybe we ought to revisit what was agreed upon to begin with. I mean, after all, there are two such vessels now, berthed, if that's the word you want to use, at this property. So again, I mean, to say this is loss of habitat is very worrisome to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Impacts of amphibious vehicles on shellfish is such an esoteric subject, and it's really, really poorly understood. And I really applaud Liz's honesty and candor. I mean, when she said, I wish somebody would do a master's thesis, get a professor out there, you would need lots of data. You would need controls, and you do it over and over again until you end up getting a handle on how much mortality is being generated by the researcher versus how much is being generated by the amphibious vehicle. It would be like, it would take Liz would be there full time for like 2 years, and she doesn't have that time. So we really don't know. And I'm open-minded to the possibility that these things don't cause impacts. I mean, the data from the manufacturer goes, oh no, and the pressure is really not that great and yada, yada. And yet somehow the idea of driving tractor treads or even wheels right over the sand, it doesn't seem right. Like, I guess I've been raised to believe that driving on a beach is not a good thing. That's going to compact the gravel and kill. So, I'm skeptical. But it's like, we really don't have the data. And I'm troubled by the idea that, well, now we're not going to use this beach because we assume that it's going to be an impact. I mean, this is messy and it's an awful thing. And I'm concerned about the long-term, what happens if we end up having another 40 of these things in our estuaries? That's troubling, and we don't have the data. I wish somebody would provide some researcher at Woods Hole or UMass Dartmouth, and they could do real work that would really be definitive, but we just don't have that. So one last thing, Liz says she believes in the precautionary principle, and that suggests that you got to be careful. You can't just assume that there's no impacts when there may well be. And I think we as a group should be exercising that caution as we look to potentially other applications for this kind of vehicle on our beaches. Thank you.
Thanks,
and
Bill.
I do want to remind everyone, one of the main regulations that we have is there's only certain areas where you can drive a car or a vehicle on the beach. And if you go past that, you get a citation. And so now that we're allowing other vessels or vehicles to be driving around, there was a reason why we made those regulations in the first place. And that's one of the things that we need to recognize too and fall back on that.
That's true, Liz. I've seen you down in the Scudder Lane, and I know what happened down there.
Yep.
Pete.
So I certainly concur with Dr. Hearn's evaluation of the science behind this. I'm concerned with the science and or the cautionary principle that our shellfish biologist has brought to us. Ms. Lewis, while the traveling of hired vehicles is certainly greater on the intertidal area down at Scudder Lane, what we have there is a lot of public wheeled access on this kind of area. Just for the record, how much shellfish productivity do we have on that drivable subtidal intertidal area down on Scudder Lane? Right. And so I was actually speaking more. That area is designated as an area that you can drive. And so again, that's an area that we consider a habitat loss. We consider a loss. Right. Deeper down, you're still going to see steamer sets. I mean, not steamer sets, razor clams, you know, because that's not traveled on as much either. And people launching boats and all that. But what happened was there's a stone wall there and people started driving around that and parking by the marsh. Now that's a much more sensitive area. It doesn't have stone, that's sand. And that is an area where soft shells set. And so that is an area, it's not seeing a lot of traffic, but people started parking there and that's a much more sensitive area. And that's more what I mean about people driving down there. If you saw someone driving down the beach at Scudder Lane, you'd have something to say. And so people even parking around the side there where they're not allowed to park because it's not designated as a parking area, it's actually private property. That is an area of concern. And we don't allow people to do that and they get citations when they do. So we need to think of that comparatively. That's I would say not even as good of a habitat as we have in front of the Seldorf property. Yes. So I was definitely looking for that comparison because I and other commissioners are intimately familiar with Scudder Lane, more so than Seldorf. What we have here really is the private taking of public resources, essentially for private benefit. We have the taking of shellfish habitat, which is supposed to be in reserve and preserved for public harvest. And so I, like Louise, think that perhaps decisions that we made some time ago should be revisited. Thank you.
Thanks, Speak. John?
Thank you, Tom. I'm curious to John O'Day and anybody else representing the Seldorfs, what is your conclusions as you see it based on the studies that were done for you? John, perhaps you could address that.
I'll start with that. And I think it's really important to also sort of remind the commission back to last spring when they requested for us and Natural Resources to do some of these studies, that it was very explicit on both sides that I'm not here to get a doctorate, and Natural Resources did not think that in a season of work they would be able to have the evidence or comfort level of how to handle these things moving into the future. So I think that where we're at was explicitly stated to the commission even going into it, just as a reminder. You know, I was there when we did the drive over testing. I think that everyone was pleasantly surprised with the results of that. I think that I was there and I collected the samples for the grain size and the density testing. And so the aisleway, the traveled way for the boats, that was vessels that was established in June, I believe, looking over my shoulder at the other emails. And so that testing was not done until mid-August. So there was a couple of months where clearly nothing was driving over the beach more than 50 feet away, if it ever had been. I think that some of the pictures in the Natural Resources documents might have even been from last summer or before. So I think that, you know, on our end, on what we've done in this limited time period, it's hard for me to see any, you know, significant impact from one traveled way versus areas outside of it, just in the, you know, physical sense of it. I don't know whether Valerie wants to offer any other insight on kind of comparing our results to the rest of the world.
No, just that in reviewing all of the materials that, both natural resources and our team were able to put together, neither has come up with anything that shows there's any significant impact here. And, certainly to some extent, we're trying to prove a negative. So there's inherent challenges with that. Based on the information that we've been able to put together, we hope it gives the commission a starting place for, reviewing future projects.
Let me jump in then, Tom, if I might.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, both of you, and Liz, a special, very, very great thanks to the work you put into this and your comments that we get from you. We really rely on them and value them very much. It's interesting because it sounds like Peter's jumped to a conclusion. I guess I'm a little bit different. I'm hearing, based on what we know so far, one, I conclude that it is a preliminary study and not as in-depth as everybody would like it to be. And that's about as far as we're going to go on this matter. Secondly, what I'm hearing is that there is, I think there's an agreement that there was not substantial injury to the animals or death to the animals, but there was certainly some. So that leads me to say, if we get another application in, is it the commission's decisions, unless we do more studies, it's got to be saying, okay, well, are we going to allow this kind of vehicle where there is not significant injury, but there is some injury? That's a question that I don't know the answer to for myself, but I'm sort of hoping we don't get any more of these. Thank you.
John, hopefully in the future, the application coming in is not as, less value in terms of the shellfish area. So that's just something that we can look for. George?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I would say we might want to be very careful about permitting this again until there is, in fact, a study done that's a peer-reviewed study.
Right.
Thank you.
Pete, your hand is still up.
No. Actually, I just want to agree with John. Yeah, it's not well known. Not so much that I am making a decision based upon this analysis. I'm going with that cautionary principle. And I very much agree with George's statement that he just made.
As would I, Pete, by the way.
Right. Well,
thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And thank you for Liz. And thank you for the Seldorf doing the study for us and provide the information. Thank you. Now we can go back to the enforcement order. The next one is Robert E. and Christina R. Menendez Kennedy, 3885 Main Street, Barnstable, map 335, parcel 052, of a wetland resource area, vegetated wetlands, and is buffered by placing fill and extending a rock landscaping wall into the 50-foot buffer. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now I'm off again here.
They can see you, Ron.
All right, you called for the 385, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, we ran across this. I was out driving past this and noticed the work and everything that had been going on. What happened? Gotta move my. What you can see, that there has always been a wall. If you're familiar with the area, there's been a rock wall that's been in this area for many years. This wall actually has predated Wetlands Protection Act, and so that's always been there. The issue was that the wall, Mr. Kennedy had elected to go ahead and start doing an extension to that wall, and ran a bigger stone wall, wider stone wall, toward the wetland area. And so what we're looking at, the area that we're concerned about is this area in the right photo. That is the red shaded area. That's where the wall has been extended. And then there was some fill that had been placed in there as well. And again, this is just from the site photos. This is sitting at the far eastern edge of the property. Looking back, you can see the fill that was put in here. The wetland is off to the left in the upper left-hand corner. If you go look at the lower left photo, again, there was a fair amount of fill, about 5 or 6 yards is what I estimated, that came in, and it was deposited literally right down to the very edge of the wetland. This orange stake is the corner bound for the property. And then you can see in the right 2 photos, the one on the lower right, the evergreen or the cedar that you're seeing, that's about the area where the original rock wall ended, and then everything else beyond that was newly added in the past month or so. And so what I'm asking is, they have a qualified consultant. They've actually had Brad Hall go out, and they've already done a wetland delineation of the property. So those wetland flags are now up. We'll also have have a consultant. Actually, I'm going to be going out probably tomorrow to help make sure that the fill is removed properly from the site. They're planning on doing that tomorrow. And then the other things that we're asking is that either remove the unpermitted section of the wall to the original condition by March 31st, or alternatively by May 31st to file either a notice of intent if they want to keep the wall in its existing stage, or if they want to shorten the wall back to where it hits the 50-foot line, but is more than what was originally there, they would have to file an RDA. Mr. Kennedy, I spoke to him earlier today, and he would like to probably pursue the matter going back where he cuts it back to the 50-foot line and then files the RDA. So with that, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions for Ed from the commissioner? None? Oh, Larry?
Mr. Kennedy, do you want to go first? Because it might help us ask questions.
Okay, surely. Can you see me?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. I went to building department at first, and was going to apply for a permit, which would lay out the line and the area I was going to do it and everything. And I was told that they don't do permits for under 4 feet walls. So, but they suggested I go to was it 3 feet? I go to the historic Kings Highway people, see what they thought of it. And I went over there and showed some photos of walls along the highway that I kind of liked. And so they approved to get started on fixing the tumble of stones that was there. It wasn't quite a wall, but it was marked a wall on my plot plan. So we improved that. And we kept going. I had extra stones, and I just kept putting it up there, since there didn't seem to be any permit needed or anything. And I made the mistake of letting the landscaper make a decision on bringing in some fill. And I wasn't part of that, but he was kind of innocent about it. I don't blame him. He had some fill dump there right at the very end, which was right in wetland area. So what we have to do is get it out of there. And that's what I plan on doing once this decision is made. There are 2 feet. I got to say, the wall at this time is continued on to a point 48 feet from the boundary of the wetlands, where we had the expert come over and define that for us. So I'd be quite willing to take 2 feet off the end of that wall, which would bring it out of the wetlands problem and not continue the wall over there. However, I would like to continue it going up Mary Down Road, which is nowhere near the wetlands. So that's my situation right now. And I hope that you like the wall and you want me to keep going with it.
That helps me with a question for either you, Mr. Kennedy, and or Ed. And that is primarily, you said it was 48 feet from the wetland, but has there
Yes.
been any history since you've lived there of water, of that wall providing any protection? Is there any reason in your mind why the wall needs to be extended in terms of the existing conditions on the property?
It was just to make it beautiful. I thought, you know, you drive down 6A, you see, I counted the other day, I was down in Orleans, I drove back, there were about over 100 partial walls where people have, you know, pushed boulders over there. Maybe they're 1 or 2 feet high, and there doesn't seem to be any control over, you know, the buildings. And I had that same situation. I just decided to put them to work and make them into a beautiful piece of art.
Okay.
And that's my business. I'm an artist, and I thought, why don't we try and do something beautiful out there that the whole town will love? And I'm getting plenty of compliments from people, and it seems to be pretty successful, except for the wetlands problem.
Well, I thank you, sir, for answering that. I'm going to let Ed take it from here, but I appreciate your input, and we'll see how the other commissioners interpret it as well as Ed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add with that, just
Go
for
ahead.
clarification, in order to meet the RDA requirements, he will have to remove the existing wall that's there right now, the unpermitted wall, back to the 50-foot buffer line. But I still, there's a question as to whether it's 2 feet or not. So I'd rather say the 50-foot line and not saying just removing 2 feet until I get out there and actually do the actual measurement from the nearest point of the wetland. So just for a point of clarification, that's all.
No, that's a good point, Ed. Thank you for the clarifications. The 50-foot buffer line, it should be the line rather than defining the length of the stone wall. So, any other questions from the commissioner? See none. Could I have a motion to approve the enforcement order as written?
So moved.
Second, roll call.
Zampo,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster, Louise.
She may have left.
Oh, she left. Okay, yeah, okay. Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye, that's unanimous.
One thing I just want to point out that our liaison, Paula Snap is with us too. Hi. The next enforcement order is John P. and Karen E. Geikos, 141 SD Avenue, Hyannis, map 306, parcel 198, alteration of a wetland resource area, flood zone, and the 0 to 100 foot buffer to a wetland resource area, BBW, by placing fill, stones, and alteration of the 50 and 100 foot buffer to a wetland resource area, BBW, by the unpermitted construction of a patio and permitted expansion of a slated patio. Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This should be very familiar to you all. This was just before you for a notice of intent hearing last month. At the time, that's when a lot of these the violations had been observed. Been in discussion with the homeowners representative, Lynn Hamlin, and I think we're all in agreement with this is the property as you see it as of the fall of this past fall. The things that were in question is that a slate patio, stone patio had been expanded beyond what it used to be. Again, this was the portion of this patio was also added without permitting. And then there's some stone felt had been placed in along this portion of this right along the side of the property line. Just to give you an idea then, so this was from back in 2016. Check the size of the stone patio. And again, over here, then in April 21st of 2022, we have the deck here that was permitted, along with some construction work that was up on the second floor that was permitted through an administrative review. And then again, disappearance of this stone, or I guess I think it's concrete, or I don't remember what it is now. Lynn will have to tell us on that one. But this portion of a patio that was added as well. So what we're asking then is that by April 7th, they remove the stone fill and restore the area with native seed and a seed mix using appropriate erosion control. Either they remove the unpermitted patio and return the slate patio to the original size that existed as of March 30th, 2021. They do that by April 7th as well, or that they alternatively can seek by April 16th, filing an after the fact request for determination of applicability, seeking approval of the unpermitted patio and slate patio expansion. I believe Lynn is all ready to go with that RDA. So I'll turn it over to the commission if they have any questions.
Any question from the commissioner for Ed? None. Lynn, are you all set with this?
Yes, I was headed out the door to file the RDA today, and Kim kindly intercepted me because for a change, I was too soon. So I have to file it on Friday in order not to exceed your 21-day, your new 21-day thing you're doing. So I'm ready to go. It's sitting here on my desk, and I'll wait till Friday.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve this enforcement order as written?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampo.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. The last enforcement order is Alan A. Fryer and Renee A. Nichols, 87 Marston Avenues, Hyannis, maps 288, parcel 126, alteration of the 50 to 0 to 50 foot buffer to a wetland resource area, bordering vegetated wetland by placing fill and cutting vegetations and 2 trees. Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this was also before you last month. When some irregularities were found, again, it centers around a small area of very minimal amount of fill over in this corner with some vegetation cutting, and then the cutting down a few trees. You can show the progression here moving through. So over in 2019, you had 2 trees, and the vegetation line was right here.
And we can't see your, I cannot see your point.
I'm sorry, John. I've always understood that you could see all that over for the last months and months and months. So I wish somebody would have told me that earlier. I would have called things out with some highlighting. But
We actually used to see your cursor.
We used to see it.
It's due, I'm sorry, I just want to say, it's due to this being recorded, and Sarah and Stone are in 2 separate rooms, so I don't have control either to putting hands up and down. It's just until they are getting the work done on the computer or their system to switch to HD, so it's temporary.
So we will be able to see the cursor when that's all set, Darcy?
Yeah, I don't know whether it's a week or 2 weeks, but
okay.
They're updating the equipment.
In April, I will have everything highlighted for you, John, and everybody else, just so it's easier.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you.
So if you look at the left-hand photo, the March 27, 2019, you can see a very well-defined vegetative edge and 2 trees in the backyard. One is an evergreen, one is a deciduous tree. They're both clearly standing there. About a year later, you can see that the two trees have now are now missing. The wetland or the vegetation line is still more or less the same, but then you go over to the right photo, and you can see that there's been a disturbed area that looks like some sand and fill, and the edge of vegetation has been cut back somewhat. And I think my next picture will sort of help you show. I just tried measurements off the corner of the deck. You pay attention to the distance and the compass direction. You can see where the end of the line is 43.25 feet to the edge of the wetland line in 2020. And then if you look at the same thing, it's a negative 43.25 along that same bearing, and you can see that you can really see the difference in the picture where the vegetation line used to be, and then some fill had been placed as well. So what I'm asking then is that by April 15th, that they submit an as-built plan to the conservation showing all hardscape and close distances to the resource boundary. They submit a restoration planting plan that shows the area of fill and 5-foot buffer strip planted with native plantings. That buffer strip should have New England meadow mix as a seeded ground cover and a diversity of native plantings interspersed throughout that buffer strip. And then that will be right up against it's the top of a slope that's there. And then a permanent demarcation should be placed at the 5-foot buffer strip so that the area on the resource side be designated on the plans as a no disturb, no mow zone. And that's all I have for this one. And Renee Nichols is the homeowner. She is in the audience as well, if you have any questions for her.
Thank you. Question from the commissioner, Pete.
Yes, good, I am verbal. So here's a quick question, Ed and my fellow commissioners. We had 2 trees cut down, sizable, within our jurisdiction. We had fill placed in our jurisdiction, and all we're asking for is a 5-foot buffer and meadow mix. That seems like we have not, I mean, that seems very light in terms of us trying to protect the buffer situation and the role the trees have in absorbing nutrients, et cetera. I mean, it just seems really minimal what we're asking. Can someone please explain that to me?
I think number one, they will be replacing the trees as well. I had mentioned I had talked to Dan Ojala about that already. In terms of the fill area, the area that was being filled was really it's not in the wetland. It's still buffer, and it was it's a tangled mess of invasives. So what is actually going to be replaced there? It's going to be far better than what is there already. You'll also be removing 5 feet of lawn from the area. But if you see fit, the commission sees fit that you want more buffer strip.
Or perhaps rather than just doing meadow, getting some lower woody vegetation there within that.
Yeah, that's clear. It says the meadow mix is just for the ground cover. They're supposed to be, they still need to be putting in a full set of vegetatively height diverse native plantings as well, interspersed throughout that meadow mix area.
Thank you for the clarity, my mistake.
Yep.
Thank you, Ed. Ed, for those 2 tree replanting, should that be as part of the enforcement order? I know Dan is going to put that in on their drawing and plant it.
Yeah, I had sent the enforcement order out after or before I talked to Dan, and but I can add that. I can amend the order to include sufficient number of tree replacement as well.
Thank you, Ed. Any question from the other commissioner? For the homeowner, do you have any questions for us, or do you understand the enforcement as what Ed is proposing?
Yeah, we may have some questions. I think we'll probably follow up with Ed as well. I mean, just for clarification, you know, we bought the house in 2011. It's our second home, so and I just want to say that we're a little bit of ignorance on our part, so we apologize about that. On the 2 trees, I mean, you're looking at a pine. The one, it's a scrub pine that was on our property off the wetlands there, about 8 feet or so. Then there was a maple that started getting out of control, and then we had a winter storm, and we lost about half of that scrub pine. So a big portion broke off, and then to make matters worse, that maple started really outgrowing everything, grew into the scrub pine, so it was killing the pine further, and it was extending into past the neighbor's shrub as well. So at that point, you know, we're trying to improve the property, you know, for ourselves and for the neighborhood. And so we had started a plan which would first encompass, you know, making some upgrades to the home. The second portion of that, you know, obviously would be, you know, getting a landscaper, professional landscaper, and landscaping the property, in which case, you know, we would obviously utilize them as far as making determinations on, you know, what kinds of plants and that sort of thing are allowed, and what we can do with the property. And, you know, obviously some of that would require a permit. So we were unaware, you know, but, you know, fade back to when we had those trees removed, we were unaware that we could not remove the trees. And the one was, again, dying. And so we decided to start the process by removing those trees so we could start over really with the you know, landscape of the overall property. So that said, we also had a very young person that mows our lawn. The back corner that you're seeing there, we are constantly battling the sumac. Grows roots underground, comes all the way into the property. So that was original property there, but that sumac, especially since we're not around to kind of control any of it, just continues. If we don't mow, we have sumac seedlings in the middle of that property. I mean, halfway to the deck, there's seedlings popping up. So I asked him to, you know, pull the roots out of that sumac. Again, I didn't know we can't do that. He did that. And when he did that, I asked him to just, you know, replace the dirt that replaced the roots, and to make sure that, you know, so that we didn't lose any of that corner property. So again, we apologize. We didn't know we needed a permit to do that, but, you know, certainly we're in the idea that we want to permit and make improvements to the property.
I think this the message is for for all the citizens living in the Barnstable. If you're planning to do any trees removal or anything like that, you can call the conservation divisions to make sure to check it, make sure that you are not in any violations or what can be done on your property. I think that's the importance. So
yeah, I guess my next question is, because, so this is saying that by April 15th, we'll submit the as-built plus a restoration for that buffer. We certainly can do that, but in addition to that, you know, we want an overall site plan for the landscape. So I guess we should just do that portion, like have the engineering company do that portion for you so that you see that. But then when we actually go to do the full plan, you know, I would assume we would need to permit again to some degree.
correct.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because we're doing some work on the house. And so this summer, we're probably not going to be implementing any new landscaping. And it's probably going to be a year after that. Because we have to get a new roof and fix some other things on the house.
I think that would be, if you have any further question on that, you can talk to Ed to
Okay.
get some directions.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just give me a call tomorrow. I'll be in the office tomorrow.
Great.
Okay,
Thanks,
very
Ed.
good. Thanks, Ed.
Could I have a motion to approve the enforcement order as written?
Second,
Roll call.
Abbott Ely,
aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Moran,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
that's unanimous.
Thank you. We have one RDA Tales of Cape Cod Inc. to create a 4-foot wide trail connecting Mass Audubon's Long Pastures Wildlife Sanctuaries to Tales of Cape Cod's property with benches for hikers and signatures at 4044 Main Street, Barnstable, as shown in Assessors Maps 336, parcel 046 G.
Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the commission. I am joined on this call either virtually or spiritually by Ian Ives, Director of Mass Audubon's Long Pasture Wildlife Sanctuary, and David Whedon, member of the Tribal Council and Director of the Historic Preservation Office of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe. In my comments, I will briefly explain the significance of this property, describe our proposal, and summarize the request for determination. In the middle of the 1800s, two farmers uncovered a brass kettle while plowing a field, and beneath this brass kettle, they realized there was a skeleton positioned in an upright position. For a number of reasons, they decided that these remains must be those of a Yano, the Wampanoag Sachem and leader of the Matakees tribe, who befriended the Pilgrims.
That's why I needed a drink. This was driving me.
In June of 1621. The human skeleton and artifacts were taken to Pilgrim Hall in Plymouth and placed on display in a glass case. On Cape Cod, the significance of this property continued to be celebrated. In 1894, the Cape Cod Historical Society placed a large slate marker on the spot where the remains were found. In 1939, the town of Barnstable placed the historic marker on Route 6A, identifying the site of the grave. In 1957, Tales of Cape Cod purchased the 8-acre property to preserve it from development. Tales of Cape Cod has maintained a close relationship with the Wampanoag tribe since that date, and we have allowed the tribe to inter the remains of their ancestors on this property when remains were found from either natural erosion or construction activities. In the early 1970s, curators at Pilgrim Hall decided to re-examine the remains that were found. And in this re-examination, they determined that the remains could not be a Yano because they were the remains of a young female. In 1974, the remains were repatriated to the Wampanoag tribe. Tales of Cape Cod realizes today that the historical significance of this property is misrepresented and misunderstood. We also feel that the historical significance of a Yano is significantly underappreciated. Tales of Cape Cod has signed a letter of understanding with Mass Audubon and with the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe to investigate the possibility of connecting the property and the gravesite to the Long Pasture Trail Network, placing one or more interpretive markers along the trail to tell the story of a Yano and increase public awareness of the Wampanoag who lived in the Mid-Cape area. And finally, to update the interpretation given to the human remains that were found on the property in the mid-1800s. Turning to our request for determination, Tales of Cape Cod proposes to create a 4-foot wide trail connecting to the Mass Audubon Wildlife Sanctuary near the parking lot on Bone Hill Road. Now, this would be located in the upper right-hand section of the diagram that is on the screen, showing the green line starting at the corner of Bone Hill Road and moving to your left and down. All work in creating this trail will be done with hand tools. The brush will be removed a distance of at least 100 feet from any wetland. We would like to place benches for hikers to rest if they need to do so, and we would use interpretive markers to tell the story of Ayano and his interaction with the Pilgrims in 1621. In preparing this request for determination, I met with Darcy back in July of last year to inquire what would be necessary to obtain the approval of the Conservation Commission. Tales of Cape Cod then engaged Brad Hall to determine whether a trail could be located from the shed to the gravesite without crossing or encroaching on a wetland, and if so, to identify where that trail could be positioned. Brad also marks the wetlands at relevant locations. In January of this year, Brad and I walked the property. He marked the wetlands and located the potential trail, which is shown in green on the screen. Brad's findings are reflected in the request for determination, and I understand he has discussed these markings with Darcy. And we can represent that the trail will be at least 25 feet from any wetland that is on the property. That concludes my introduction. Are there any questions?
Question from the commissioner. No one? Any comment from you, Darcy? You look at this, you work with the Brad Hall on this.
Thank you, Tom. No, I support the project 100%, and I'm confident with Brad flagging the wetlands and that they are keeping the trail at least 25 feet away from wetlands.
Thank you, Darcy. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Oh, Pete has his hand
Oh,
up.
sorry, Pete?
I just, being an educator myself, the value that this brings to our community more than outweighs a trail impacting within 20 feet of a wetland. So I also am wholeheartedly in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
We do have some abutters in the audience, the Seligmans and the Schofields. If you have any comment that you'd like to provide, you could raise your virtual hand or unmute and do so at this time. I guess not.
Hey, wait, give me a second. This is Kelly Stone.
Yep, go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, how are you? So when will this start, the construction, if it's approved?
Gene, what is your construction schedule?
We have not defined a construction schedule. My expectation is I would like to start before warm weather. I cannot represent that it would be completed over the summer, but it would be completed during the winter of next year.
Kelly, what is your last name? Schofield?
Schofield.
Kim, do you need any more information?
Is she in a butter to the property, and what is her address?
79 Stony Point.
Yeah, we are butters, and he basically is in our backyard, more or less, within 15 feet of our property line.
Thank you.
Any
other public?
Yeah, I have another question. Are there any plans for the existing path to 6A? Will that be altered in any way or maintained by Audubon?
The existing path will, my expectation is that that will be maintained as it is currently.
Okay.
Any other question from the commission? I mean, from the public?
I'm not sure if Kelly covered this before I jumped on. How many people are you expecting to be coming down this path? Because
I'm not sure if you've looked at the landscaping. They're within 5 feet of our property line. And it will create from a nice private area to a very public area in my yard, along with the trash and things that they throw over the wall.
Could we get your name and address, whoever's speaking now?
Carl Schofield, Kelly's husband, 79 Stony Point Road.
Thank you.
I can only estimate that there would be approximately 200 people over the course of a year, 12 months, that might walk this path.
Okay, thank you.
Any more public comment on this? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hold on just a minute. Here we go. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
We have 2 NOIs. The first one is Michael Bronstein's to demolish single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling with all associated premises at 132 Point of Pines Avenue, Centerville, as shown on Assessors Map 230, parcel 064. John or Chuck?
Chuck Rowland, Sullivan Engineering Consulting. I'm on John's computer, so if you bear with me for a second. Can you guys let me know when my
see the plan.
Screen pops up?
Yep.
So Chuck Rowland, Sullivan Engineering Consulting, representing the Bronsteins today at 132 Point of Pines Avenue, abutting Lake Wequaquet. So the site consists of approximately 0.3 acres of land abutting Lake Wequaquet. The site is developed with a single-family dwelling dating back to the 1940s or so, with a shed and as well as a permitted pier that was before you guys under DA 81013 and SA 32214, and the wetland resources of the site are land underwater bodies. The project as proposed is to demolish a single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling with all associated appurtenances. The project will have a reduction in hardscape in the 50-foot buffer with a greater separation of hardscape to the lake. And due to the added hardscape in the 50 to 100-foot buffer, native mitigation plantings are proposed along the edge of the lake, which I think it's zoomed in enough, but you guys can see, and as well, you guys also have hard copies. So this is the mitigation area. And then here's our mitigation plan with different dimensions, 12 feet, 18 feet. So it's a real buffer area that's being added. So we're, next is the stormwater drainage will be provided for any roof runoff. We've also included a work limit to be installed using silt fence to prevent construction impacts, and a small temporary work area around the existing septic will be installed for the septic removal, which is this area, right? Can you guys see my cursor?
Yep.
So that's this area right here. The existing sandy area abutting the lake was permitted as a beach under in 1981 as part of the seasonal pier. Majority of this area will be replanted as part of the mitigation and filing. Additionally, the slope abutting the lake appears to have some minor erosion. And as shown on the previously approved plan, a landscape retaining wall was built at some point along the lake. It's no longer there. And so the retaining wall was pretty much in this area from what I could see. I've never really seen too much evidence of it. But we are replanting the area, so it should become stable after it's replanted. The Title V septic system is being installed at the site, which will be an improvement over the existing. Presently, the existing septic is about 30 feet from the lake and likely has very little separation to groundwater. And I know that the IAs have been a hot topic. We will not be installing an IA at this time because the town has this area mapped as a phase 1, 0 to 10-year sewer expansion. And since the sewer connection is mandatory when it becomes available, it's very costly endeavor to permit install a system that any day will be no longer being used. So with that, I think it's a fairly straightforward project, demo, rebuild. We're moving everything out of the 0 to 50-foot buffer, except for an existing concrete walkway, which just actually only allows access to the pier. And I don't really think it has much of an impact on the resource. And lastly, we plan on coming to you in the next few months for a proposed pier replacement. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any question from the commissioner?
I do, if the commissioners are all set.
Darcy?
Thank you. I apologize, Chuck. I didn't have a chance to bring this up before, but I would like to see some larger size plants in the mitigation planting area. Sweet fern, like I'm not the biggest fan of the low bush blueberry. They're very small. I know you have them down as 3 gallons, but I would like some additional plants added, at least 5 gallons. I think you have plenty of room, especially you have some open areas in that planting area. So I would like to see more planted, larger size planted in the mitigation area. And I thank you for putting the demarcation in. And I really do like your mitigation planting detail plan view. Thanks.
Before I forget, Chuck, if you are submitting a revised plan, can you put your for your peer or the condition number, SE3 number on the plan?
The previously approved SE number?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, so Chuck, thank you for the very good logic and reasoning behind not putting in an IA. We appreciate the thought process and it makes complete sense, your decision. Secondly, as a commissioner, Darcy said it for me. Yeah, make it a little better in a 3-dimensional, some bigger plants. Thank you, Darcy, for taking those words.
Any other question from the commissioner? Seeing none. I'm seeing 2 public comment. Let me go with Mary E. Anderson first. Mary?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, what I'm concerned about, I'm right across the street from the property, which I respect tremendously. But I'm concerned when they do put the sewer in the front there, okay? Down the pike, because it's gonna be a long time before the sewers come down Point of Pines Avenue, the way we're going down. I don't know, and you know about Finney's Lane right now, right? Which we're dealing with. But I'm concerned about, hopefully, in front of this sewers, it may be, I'm afraid it will be an above ground sewer, which I have in the back of my house now, which is atrocious. And I stare at that every day, and they have not put any plantings around it at all. And I look at this daily, and that I hope that if they put a sewer in the front there, and I don't know if it would be above the ground. I have no idea, but it's going to be, I checked on how long it's going to be before our sewers come down Point of Pines, and it's going to be many, many years. And I hope if they put the sewer in the front there, that they will at least put some plantings around it so you don't see this ugly structure. That was my question.
I think if I remember, I mean, Chuck can answer the question. I think this is all below grade.
It's all what?
All below grade. You don't see it.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Below grade?
Below the ground?
Yeah.
Is it high enough above the water line to be below the ground? Because when I tried to put in septic in my backyard, I hit water 4 feet down. And I was not able to put it there. So I just wanted to be sure of that.
They can always put the septic system below that. It's only for the engineer, it's only a matter of like the flotation calculations and so forth. So they can do that. We cannot really install a sewer line above grade because in the winter it will freeze.
Oh, there's one right across the street from me.
So the grade here is at 45.
Am I saying things wrong?
And the seasonal elevation of the lake is 34.
Septic.
So we have 11-foot separation. So I don't see why I can't have a fully. I mean, I think it's out. I don't think I know it's outside of conservation jurisdiction, but if to appease the abutters, I'm telling you that I'm fairly confident that it's a buried septic system.
Well, number one is outside of Concom's jurisdictions, but from the Board of Health, I don't think that you have to go through the Board of Health in terms of that. But I don't think that you can. I mean, this is technically a below ground system. You don't see it above ground.
It's definitely a below ground system.
Yeah.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, it's going to be a conventional gravity septic system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, this one, the new septic is much better than the cesspool at the back of the house.
That's right, because right now it's a cesspool, right?
Correct.
And which is a big problem. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next one is Chuck Murphy.
Yep. Hi, I'm Chuck Murphy. I'll go by Charles Murphy. I'm adjacent at 122 Point of Pines. So congratulations, Michael, for buying the property and the work that you're going to do. So we're excited to see it. My questions are like how far it's really regarding my view, because my view goes over sort of your dock and that type of thing. So is the planting or is the property go out any further that would potentially obstruct any of the water view? I guess that would be more of a question to Chuck, I guess.
I'm not sure about your view. I think that as the plants grow up, I think that your house is going to be elevated high enough so you'll be able to see over a lot of the plantings.
Okay. And is there any? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just curious if there's any plantings between the properties. We try to put a couple as part of sort of a mitigation that we had. We put a couple plantings, a couple blueberry bushes, and so I didn't know whether there was going to be continuation or consideration for that. Just because I think our properties are the only ones on the street that don't have any sort of separation between the properties. So I was just more curious if there was going to be anything done there.
So this is the property line, and this is the mitigation area, which is just a zoomed in view of this. So they'll be planting.
Okay, but it won't be necessarily on the property line to almost put a vegetation type of fence.
No, there won't be. There won't be like a vegetation screening or anything between the parcels. It'll just be along the water.
Right. Okay. And then how high is the property going to be? Is it a multi-story like the existing one, or the same footprint, or is it a larger footprint, or?
So as you can see, the grayed out area is the existing, and then the darker is the proposed building.
Gotcha. So does it extend out further? These are just curiosity questions. Does it extend out further towards the water, or?
It's kind of a give and take. It extends out further in some areas it doesn't.
Gotcha.
Tom, perhaps I could have this conversation between Chuck and Mr. Murphy off the record here.
Because it's getting into outside of our jurisdictions.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's the first I've seen of it. And I guess the last question is, when will the work commence? Will it be during the summertime or?
I think that they plan on starting this fall, but the permits are good for 3 years.
The fall. Okay. All right. Very good. Mike, maybe you and I can just connect offline at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good luck with it.
10:18. Any more public comment on this?
Suzanne here is also in a butter. Suzanne, if you had anything, could you unmute and let us know?
Suzanne?
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Lay, did you have anything?
Hi there. We're also in a butter at 148, and I just wanted to support the Bronsteins in their project. We're looking forward to a new improved site next door, and we'll talk to Mike offline. We've already been in touch about things, and we were hoping to talk more about like fencing and stuff like that. So we'll talk to him in the future. Anyway, but we want to offer our support.
Thank you. Could I have a motions to approve this application as submitted? Oh, we need a revised plan to show the revised planning as Darcy was talking about, plus the SE3 number for the existing pier.
So you need a motion to approve this subject to receipt of the revised plan, Tom? Is that what you're asking for? Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
So moved.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn. Oh, Hearn's not here.
Aye.
Oh, you are here still, Bill. Okay. Lee.
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you
very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
The second NOI is Laurie Sidmans, trustee, Bonnie Brook Realty Trust. Proposed repair and maintain necessitated by accretions of shoreline consists in part of relocation of pier heads and bow lift at 185 Ocean View Avenue. Contoured as shown in the assessors map 033 parcel 016. This is a continuance request from to April the 4th. Could I have a motion without testimony? Could I have a motion to continue as this applications without testimony to April the 4th?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Sampu.
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
We have one continuance. Rihanna Clubs to permit seasonal tents, timber walkway, and ADA access and grading at 107 Seaview Avenue, Osterville, as shown on the assessors map 162 parcel 024. This is a continuance from February the 14th, and the quorum is every commissioner. John.
Good afternoon, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. I believe there's some representatives from the Wiano Club here as well. If I can bring up my plan, we've prepared a revised plan.
The revised plan is dated March the 6th.
Where does it bring up the share, Chuck, here? There we go. And so, you know, in response to some of the comments that we had received last time, we worked with the club to significantly reduce the size of this walkway. I can zoom in. So I think before it was about 14 feet wide. It extended out beyond the building. We've trimmed it down to really kind of the bare minimum. I think this is about half the area that it had been before, almost entirely outside of the 50-foot buffer. except in this little corner where there, again, is an existing doorway that we're trying to work our way out of. We also looked at areas on the property where we could provide mitigation for this walkway, and the commission had talked about starting, in the area of the grading over by the snack bar. And so we did come up with some mitigation there. There's two different line works of mitigation here. There's the crosses are what was previously required many years ago for the sea view room. So that's existing, at least on so much as the east side. And then the second type of line is what's proposed as mitigation. So we came up with a band here, and then we looked elsewhere across the property, have some additional mitigation all the way to the east. And we're able to come up with, again, a little bit more along the west side, working with the club in terms of, trying to stay out of the areas that are most heavily used, especially at this end for functions and weddings, etc. So we did come up with a mitigation that does cover the walkway. And then, again, just a reminder of the tent. Tent has for many, many years been seasonally set up over here. We've come up with some improvements in terms of drainage. The grading is not towards the bank anyway, but we have come up with a drainage plan to try to sort of even more so lessen any potential impacts in the buffer zone. I think with that, I'd be happy to turn it back to the commission and see if we hopefully haven't taken their guidance and brought us to where we need to be.
First, I want to let Darcy mention it in terms of whether she has a chance to look at this previous approved mitigation area or not. So, Darcy.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Yeah, so John and I have been emailing back and forth today because I have concerns about when I went out there, I didn't believe all the required mitigation plantings for SE 34541 were in place. And he did confirm that there are some missing. So I believe I would like to see, well, number one, that's a violation of a previous order. I have asked Ed to issue a written warning to Wayano Club for the failure to maintain the mitigation that was required under that application. I am asking to walk the site with John when they do stake the prior mitigation and confirm where it should be, because I definitely felt there was some missing at the top of the bank. And based on that, then I'm not really sure where the location of the proposed mitigation is going. I asked John and he said it wasn't staked today. So I have nothing really to go by as far as the location. This is the area next to the, in front of the tent. And I would say, since the mitigation demarcation of these pieces of wood obviously didn't work and stay in place, that I would recommend that it be a single split rail fence. And I don't see that any demarcation labeled on this plan. So those are the things I would be seeing. Ed would be sending out a warning letter. I would like to walk the site when they stake the mitigation of the prior mitigation, see the staking of the new mitigation area that is laying next to that, and some type of demarcation that actually stays in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. John? How about John?
Thank you, Tom. As I recall, there are several issues that were raised at the early hearing, one by Louise, who's not with us tonight or this afternoon, and that is should we require a calculation of the mitigation required using the square footage of the tent as well? So I guess my first question, John, is that how much mitigation are you providing versus how much new hardscape is there within the protected zones? Second question is, there was some discussion about conditions requiring, upon removal of the tent, revegetating the area, grass or whatever. So your comments on both those, John, please.
Sure. So we have provided mitigation to cover the walkway, the structure that is new hardscape that has never been there in the past. And we have just provided enough for that. We have not provided any mitigation for the seasonal tent. I think it's for the commission, I guess, to decide whether or not that is required in this instance, for something that has, historically been there. And again, where we are offering improvements to that area in terms of the drainage in response to some of the initial comments from staff that they had received when talking about this. So that's where we're at. We've done the mitigation for the walkway. We do not have, we have not provided any mitigation or discussed how to handle the seasonal tent, if anything additional is required out there. And then
the second question about when the tent's removed.
We have discussed that with the club again this past years, that the area was revegetated when the tent came down, and they are I don't think would have any opposition to that being a continuing condition if this was approved.
Thank you, John.
Any other question from the commissioner? I'm seeing none here. So when you off the season, when the tent is gone, what kind of grass are you putting in? Or
I think this past season that they put down sod, given that it was pushing October by the time it came down this past year. And so just to have an immediate greenage.
Right.
Don't know whether there are other years where it may come down earlier where it could have been seeded or hydroseeded. I guess that would have to be a yearly determination, but certainly the goal was to get it established before.
Well, all the sodding is the quickest way to get the grass seed. I mean, hydro seed is going to be a long, depending on the season and all that stuff too. So,
yeah. And we would have no reason. Sorry, this is Mark Krebs, general manager. We would have no reason not to sod that. It looks nicer. It's short money. We don't use that space for the remainder of the year. So we're fully on board 100% with sodding that or doing whatever is desired, as long as we have the tent up.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Pete?
Yeah, so John, might you go back and revisit with your plan the snack area and the slight alteration that you're doing in the slope there and the planting that you're proposing in that area?
Sure. So the prior mitigation on the property for the dining room, and again, I'm sorry, I don't know if you see my cursor or not, but there was basically some meadow established at both the east and west ends of the property at the top of the bank. That at work at the east end has been maintained with the markers. I think that previous meadow mitigation is there in full in that area. And so we would be extending that down towards the ramp. I think that's about a width of about 5 more feet in that area. And again, I don't know if you see my cursor or not, but we did have, oh, sorry, it looks like it says 7 feet. 7 feet there along the bottom of that slope of the snack bar area.
Okay, so question I have, please, John, do you have any worry of foot traffic on this gradient coming down from the snack bar, having potential wearing effect and erosion concerns?
I think I don't have erosion concerns to the point where it would impact a wetland or the coastal bank or the vetted coastal bank. I think that there's obvious high traffic in this area. I think that there always has been between the snack and the access to the beach and the, you know, walkway up to the parking areas. I think it's an, you know, that's why they have groundskeepers, I guess, to keep those areas looking green and stable. I don't think it's would be any worse for the wear than what's happened out there historically.
Okay, so if I talk to the general manager now, do you have found, sir, that it is sufficient for the greenery to be grass, or do you foresee any need for smaller, better rooted vegetation?
For the area of the lawn that.
It's the sloping area, which is just to the east of where I presume to be the walk. Yes, right there, John. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. The idea for us would be to keep it remaining grass. You know, that the area gets utilized a lot. We set things up, take them down, kids run and play, tables get moved around a little bit. So ideally that just remains as open grass space. The whole idea of, sorry?
You do not foresee the need, that was my question, for better rooted vegetation besides grass. That was my question.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, Tom.
Yeah, Darcy.
Sorry, before we move to the other side of the plan, if we're going to talk to the other side, I have a question for John on why is there a white area? Why isn't the prior mitigation brought all the way down the hatch mark or the
In
squares?
here, my guess is going back 20 years ago that this had already been meadow, so that this line here was kind of straightening out, adding to what had been a curve, you know, probably before the CV room, the edge of lawn was here along the edge of white, and then it was extended out to the cross hatches.
That line work is taken right out of the approved plan that we did for the CV room.
And you can see right here, we have it labeled as, I mean, that is where the edge of lawn is today. It's hard to see here, but this line work was copied right out of the old plans. And so whatever was seaward of this before must have been natural before.
Okay, so maybe we should label that there's natural vegetation there. So I just don't want it to look like that's supposed to be a path or something. Just make it clear that there's natural vegetation from the top of the bank to the hash marked showing the prior mitigation.
Sure, we could label that prior, pre-meadow, whatever. We can work that out for sure.
Thank you.
Darcy, do you have any question on the other side where the temporary tent is?
Well, I just need to hear the commission's thoughts about requiring a single rail fence this time for all the mitigation. Well, I guess the demarcation is staying in place currently at the other end of the property.
We did talk with the club about that, the demarcation this week as well. And we did point out to them that, you know, there may be concerns in this area where those, you know, wooden bollards basically had disappeared. And we'd mentioned that, you know, in some other areas, sometimes the commission would require a stone post or a boulder sized thing that wasn't rollable. And I think that they are open to alternatives that the staff finds acceptable. I think that, you know, probably rather not do split rail fences. But
Well, we allow different types of the demarcation on the site, so you can discuss that with Darcy, what is being acceptable on the site here.
I was just concerned because that's the end that's going to have a lot of traffic with, I mean, I know you had the tents coming or, being placed and taken up and down, but a lot of foot traffic, a lot of mowing, a lot of maintenance in that area that the other type of demarcation didn't last, but it would have to be some substantial type of cobble that's dug in and is at least 2 feet high, so we don't.
And frequent
doesn't
enough
go-
that it doesn't disappear. I think we
Right.
can certainly review those alternatives when we stake it out with you and make sure that something's in there before the growing season. I'm comfortable that we can get something to make you comfortable.
But I definitely would like to see this mitigation area staked before the order's issued.
And John and Darcy, I think you have to also be aware that this is being an area of high foot traffic, that it is not a 2-foot high cobble interspaced or 2-foot high stone thing where people just walk through. This, you want to keep foot traffic out of this area. So whether that means a rope in between your stone stanchions or something like that. But, please be aware that this is a natural area for a large population just to go down to the water's edge and look out.
That's a good point too.
Thank you. Are you all set, Darcy?
Yes, thank you.
Larry?
Thank you. John O'Day, do you see the club being willing for some sort of a fence or a railing that maybe is not higher than 2 feet, say one of the white type of fences, or a stone with a rope or something between it? Do you see something like that? I'm trying to come up with a description with some parameters here that can be accepted, and then we don't have to worry about it, wondering what it's going to be. Or do you want to go back and explore it more fully and deal with it with staff?
I think that I'm just a consultant. I'm not the manager and I'm not a member, so I would sort of defer those discussions or final decisions to them. But I think that they're a part of this and they understand the commission's concern and have expressed the willingness to make sure that it gets resolved to their satisfaction.
And I don't think the commission is capable of sitting here tonight and designing it. I think it's Darcy has, Pete's comments were good. Darcy heard them and she could work and give her approval.
Right.
Well, right. That's where we are. And I think that, John, you've covered it and both Johns have covered it. So I think we're fine.
Any other comment from John? Are you done?
Yes, no. I'm willing, given the history of the site, just speaking for myself, I'm willing to say that I would agree with the applicant that we do not require additional mitigation for the tent, given the specific history of the use of that tent on this property. I do think we should probably put a start and end date in an order for when it's set up and when it's removed. We can be fairly liberal in that. And we should also put a condition that when the tent's removed, that area is resodded. So I'd like to see those conditions in an order. And I think the manager indicated he'd be agreeable to that.
Thanks, John.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Awesome.
John just reminded me of something too. So we're going to need, because the order is usually good for 3 years and then you extend it another 3 years and another 3 years. Do we want to have just go with the way a normal order goes, or do you want to have an ongoing condition that this tent can be maintained so after a couple extensions?
They asked for an ongoing condition before, and it would not be unusual to give them that in this as an ongoing condition.
Ongoing condition that the tent can continue to be maintained.
Right, subject to the other conditions of replanting and seasonality, et cetera, in my opinion.
Okay, and then, so I would just ask with the ongoing condition that we get a report on the the state of the mitigation and the demarcation each time. So
Good.
it saves staff from having to run out there. So we need to have photographs each time.
That sounds reasonable to me, Tom.
Can I just ask, is that are you saying that after 3 years, that if they want to keep putting up the tent, they can, but they would have to do like a seasonal report on the mitigation? Or is that every 3 years you'd be looking for a report if they keep putting it up? I think I just need, that statement needs a little bit more clarification for me on what you were saying.
What is the frequency that you're looking for, Darcy? Annually or 3 years?
I would either go with 2 or 3 years. I don't think it has to be done every year.
Okay.
So.
Got
it. I think it makes sense to have that report coming in before you apply for extensions.
Well, then they don't have to
But
apply
we're
for
not
an
going to have to
extension.
apply for extensions if you're allowing ongoing, but it could be
Right.
the same sort of a schedule of every 3 years.
Right.
All right, I'll go with every 3 years. They don't need to ask for an extension. So they get their order of conditions, and every 3 years, they have to come in with photos of the mitigation areas and the demarcation.
Okay. Any other comment from the commissioner?
I'd like to just note one thing with the previous
Who's-
mitigation over on the lawn there. This is Mark.
This Mark?
Yes.
Okay.
I would just like it to be noted that we were unaware of those missing markers in the previous mitigation. You know, I can't speak for past managers or groundskeepers or maintenance folks at the club, all of which are recent and new within the last few years. So we're definitely willing to, you know, work with the committee, comply with anything that's determined here, and keep that previously mitigation marked and unfustered. So just
No one, we are not looking at the past. We're looking forward.
Yep. Fantastic.
Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Let me try a motion. If I miss anything, just let me know that we can do an amendment. I mean, amend the order stuff. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to one is the verifications of the previous mitigation area and the proposed mitigations. If it is different, then John can submit a revised plans to reflect the actual previous mitigation area and the revised mitigation line. And secondly, provide a demarcation for the mitigation area, including the previous mitigation area and the new one. And
Subject to approval by staff.
Approval by staff. And thirdly, is when the temporary tent is removed, it should be resorted for the area annually. And next is the labeling of the area and the white area between the building 61 and 671, that it should be naturalized. And then we should have an annual report for 3 years with the photographs showing the mitigation area conditions.
And that the tent is an ongoing approval.
The seasonal tent is ongoing approval, the use of seasonal tent.
Do we need dates for putting it up and taking it down?
That would be good, because this is supposed to be temporary, so.
Okay.
Mark, what kind of dates do you want?
It's hard to tell specifically with an ongoing approval, just because not knowing what the future may bring, but May through October would give us a buffer.
Okay, May 1 to October 31st.
Right.
So add that to the motion, Tom.
Yes, as amended, so the tent can be used from May 1st to October 31st.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
that's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Our
Thank you all.
Our next hearing is 6:30 on March the 14th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Sampu,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Abadili,
Boy, I'd love to say no, but yes, aye.
like your son. What's in that bottle? Gilmore, aye. We are adjourned at 5:15.